Good afternoon. We're glad to have you with us one more time. We thank you so much for being with us again to share a word from God. Our message today is found in the Gospel according to Luke. It talks about the 10 lepers who Jesus cleansed, and usually the message is focused on the one who came back and gave thanks. But I'd like for us to examine just for a moment in time what happened to 9. Our message today is entitled, What About the 9? Sit back, relax, and let's see. What about the 9? Over the years that I've been blessed to live, I marvel at how people take for granted the things that are done for them just because someone is trying to be courteous or nice. Instead of saying thank you, we nod our head when someone lets us go in front of them. Instead of saying thank you when someone holds the door, we just walk on by as though it was their job. Instead of saying thank you, we take it for granted that whenever anyone does something for us, we were owed it. And therefore don't have to say anything. Now I know some of you are saying, I don't do that. I'm always respectful to those who do things for me or on my behalf. And I teach my children to do the same thing and act the same way. Like the shoemaker said, if the shoe don't fit, don't wear it. In other words, don't get caught up on a thing if it is not part of your being. But know this, we have all been guilty at one time or another of not saying please and or thank you. We have all been guilty of taking something done for us for granted. We have all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Not my words, but the words of the book known as the Bible. And if we were to look into our heart of hearts, we would find this truth to be self-evident. I only point this out because our scripture points to the fact that the vast majority, 9 out of 10, have the potential to take any given situation for granted. For every one of us that said thank you, there are 9 who will feel that they are receiving what is due them just because they asked. So this morning I don't want to focus on the one that came back to say thank you, but rather ask the question, what about the 9? In our morning scripture, we find Jesus going to Jerusalem. He is passing by Samaria. And we have learned from other readings that Samaria and the Samaritans in particular were despised by the Jewish community. The animosity that arose between the two people became so great that at the time of Jesus, Jews would go an extra distance through barren land just to avoid contact with Samaritans. Jesus, ever mindful of this divide between the Jews and the Samaritans, used Samaritans as an example of God's love for all his creation. Not just the people we feel should share, to get a share of God's love, but for all people. Like the Jewish community of that time, we carry our discriminations with us as to who should be a part of the Christian band. No gays allowed, as if they were better than those who commit fornication and or adultery. No women abusers allowed, as if they were better than the abusers of children and men. No child molesters allowed, as if they were better than rapists of any sex. No gamblers allowed, as if for playing lotto and legalized numbers are better off. No drug dealers or users allowed, as if alcohol and prescription drug users are better. No, you fill in the blank. As if you have a monopoly on the goodness of God, and what you are about is viewed by God as better than the person sitting next to you and what they're about. I'll say it again. All of us have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Jesus rebuked his disciples about their hostility against the Samaritans. And just ask James and John, who wanted to bring fire down upon them. But Jesus honored a Samaritan for his neighborliness after a Levite and a priest walked by a man who was stranded on the road, beaten half to death. Jesus asked a Samaritan woman for a drink of water. She wasn't of the greatest of character, but she recognized who and what he stood for. Jesus, because of her, was able to preach to the Samaritans, and many were saved because of this woman. Jesus challenged his disciples to witness in Samaria because he told them to go to Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria. And Philip, a deacon, opened a mission in Samaria. Which brings us to our scripture today, where Jesus cleansed a Samaritan of leprosy. And of all that were cleansed that day, and there were 10, only the Samaritan came back. He came back to say thanks. But my message is not focused on the one who came back, but rather on the 9 who never said a word of thanks. There are some things that we can learn from the 9, some life lessons that we need to grasp so that we don't begin to cultivate a take for granted attitude when it comes to Jesus. The first lesson that we can take from these lepers is that Jesus didn't cleanse them, didn't have to cleanse them, but he did. I'll say it again. Jesus didn't have to do it, but he did.
All right.
It was required that a leper stand at least 100 paces from a clean person. That's about 300 feet, y'all. And this would account for the reason why they had to shout to get Jesus' attention. The Bible said they lifted up their voices and said, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." Yeah. Now, how many of us realize that a master is not obligated to do anything? Those who he have mastery over, he's not obligated to do anything for. The word master means a person with the ability or power to control, as in the master of one's fate. The lepers recognized Jesus as